Welcome to Grace Mitchell's Stories, where every tale reminds us of the power of truth, kindness, and love. Today's story is about a quiet maid, whose bravery in the face of fire changed the life of a powerful millionaire forever. It begins on a quiet spring morning in Manhattan, inside the grand penthouse of one of the wealthiest men in the city, Jonathan Kingsley. To the world, he was a ruthless tycoon, a man of steel who built his empire with iron discipline. But to his only daughter, little Emily, he was simply daddy. And to his maid, Maria Alvarez, he was a distant employer, one who never noticed the sacrifices of those who worked under him. Maria was 32, an immigrant mother who left her own son in Mexico while she worked tirelessly in the States to send money home. For years, she scrubbed, cleaned, and quietly endured the cold glances of wealthier guests. She never complained. All she wanted was to provide a better future for her child. But life had plans neither Maria nor Jonathan could ever predict, because on one fateful night, when flames consumed the mansion and screams filled the air, it was Maria who did the unthinkable. She ran straight into the fire to save Jonathan's little girl, and the aftermath of that moment would bring a billionaire to his knees. Jonathan Kingsley's name was known across the city. At 45, he had everything: wealth, power, influence. But behind his glass towers and his tailored suits was a man hollowed by loss. His wife Clara had passed away 5 years ago from illness, leaving him to raise Emily alone, though he loved Emily dearly. Jonathan had grown more hardened, focusing on business over family. He kept a team of nannies, tutors, and maids to raise his daughter, believing money could buy the best care. But deep down, Emily longed not for riches, but for warmth. Maria Alvarez, meanwhile, had been working in Jonathan's mansion for 2 years. She was quiet, unnoticed, yet deeply kind. Emily adored her. Maria would braid Emily's hair in the mornings, sneak her cookies from the kitchen, and tell her bedtime stories in Spanish when she had nightmares. One night, Emily whispered to Maria, "Do you feel like my mama?" Those words broke Maria's heart, for she too had a little boy, Mateo, waiting for her back in Mexico. She worked endless hours, sending every dollar home, dreaming of one day bringing him to live with her. To Jonathan, however, Maria was just the maid. He barely knew her name. He assumed his wealth gave Emily everything she needed, but he couldn't see the bond forming between his daughter and the woman who dusted the shelves, folded the clothes, and, most importantly, listened. That bond would soon be tested in the most terrifying way. It happened on a stormy Friday night. The mansion stood tall against the darkened sky, rain lashing the windows. Jonathan had left for a late-night meeting, leaving Emily under the care of the staff. Maria was in the kitchen, finishing the dishes, when she smelled smoke. At first, she thought it was the stove. But then she heard the alarm, sharp, piercing, echoing through the halls. "Fire!" one of the cooks screamed. The wiring in the east wing, panic spread like the flames themselves. Staff rushed to grab valuables. Some bolted out the back door. Others tried frantically to call for help. The fire moved quickly, licking the walls, devouring curtains, spreading with terrifying speed. "Where's Emily?" Maria cried, her heart pounding. No one answered. Maria dropped everything and sprinted up the stairs, the smoke choking her lungs. She coughed, shielding her mouth with her apron, but pushed forward. "Emily, ¿dónde estás, mi niña?" From the far end of the hall, she heard a small voice, terrified, trembling. "Maria, help!" Maria's blood froze. Emily's room, the east wing. The flames were closing in fast. She ran, her shoes slipping on the polished floor, now coated with ash and soot. When she reached the door, it was hot to the touch. Without hesitation, she kicked it open, rushing inside. Emily was crouched under her bed, clutching a stuffed bear, her face streaked with tears. "Come, sweetheart, we must go now," Maria cried, reaching for her. But as she turned to leave, the hallway collapsed in flames. Their exit was blocked. Maria's heart pounded in terror. She thought of Mateo. She thought of her promise to her mother to survive. But when she looked at Emily, sobbing in her arms, instinct took over. She pulled Emily close. "Don't be afraid, Mia. I will not let anything happen to you." The smoke grew thicker, and Maria knew time was running out. She spotted the window. Without thinking, she smashed it with a chair, glass shattering as rain poured in from outside. But they were 3 stories up. The ground looked deadly. She prayed under her breath. Then, wrapping Emily in a blanket, Maria climbed onto the ledge. "Maria, I'm scared." "Emily Sovit Inowa, cariño, but you must trust me." And with that, Maria jumped. The wind roared. Emily screamed, and Maria twisted her body midair to shield the child from the impact. They hit the wet grass hard, Maria's back taking the brutal fall. Pain shot through her body, but she held Emily tight. Emily was safe. That was all that mattered. Moments later, firefighters swarmed the estate, pulling Maria and Emily to safety. Maria slipped into unconsciousness, her last thought a whispered prayer, "Please, let her live." Jonathan arrived at the mansion to chaos. Flames still licked the night sky, smoke billowed, sirens blazed. His heart stopped when he heard the words, "Your daughter." She was saved by the maid. He ran to the ambulance, where Emily was wrapped in a blanket, crying but alive. Beside her, on a stretcher, lay Maria, pale, unconscious, her hands burned, her body bruised. "Daddy?" Emily cried, throwing herself into his arms. He hugged her desperately, his eyes wet. "Emily, my baby, thank God." Then Emily pointed at Maria. "Daddy, she saved me. She saved my life." Jonathan turned, his gaze falling on Maria's still body. The weight of her sacrifice hit him like a tidal wave. A woman he barely noticed, a maid he had dismissed as invisible, had risked everything her life for his daughter. He sank to his knees beside her stretcher, taking her hand in his. "Maria? Oh God, forgive me. You're more than I ever deserved." For the first time in years, the ruthless billionaire wept openly. Maria spent weeks in the hospital. Her ribs were fractured, her hands badly burned, but she survived. Every day, Jonathan and Emily visited. Emily would bring drawings, singing to her in the hospital room. Jonathan, humbled, sat quietly by her side. One evening, Maria awoke to find Jonathan sitting there, his head bowed. Why are you here, Mr. Kingsley?" she whispered, her voice hoarse. He looked up, eyes red. "Because I owe you everything. You saved my daughter, Maria. You saved my life. And I never even saw you before this. Forgive me." Maria smiled weakly. "There is nothing to forgive. She is like my own child." Those words shattered Jonathan's heart. For years, he had thought money could protect Emily, but it was love, pure, selfless love, that had saved her. From that day forward, Jonathan vowed never to overlook kindness again. When Maria finally returned home, Jonathan had prepared a surprise. At the mansion, rebuilt and renewed, Maria walked in nervously, unsure of her place. But Jonathan and Emily stood waiting with a banner. "Welcome home, Maria." Emily ran to her, hugging her fiercely. "Your family now?" Jonathan stepped forward, his voice steady. "Maria, you're no longer our maid. You're a part of us. I want to sponsor your son's education. Bring him here. Give both of you the life you deserve." Tears filled Maria's eyes. "Senor, this is too much." Jonathan shook his head. "It will never be enough." And for the first time, Maria allowed herself to dream of a future where she and Mateo could be together, safe, loved, and respected. When the wedding of fate comes, it rarely announces itself. For Jonathan Kingsley, it came in the form of fire and a maid's courage. For Maria Alvarez, it came in the form of trust, sacrifice, and a love for a child not her own. The night the mansion burned, so too did Jonathan's arrogance. From the ashes rose humility, gratitude, and a bond that money could never buy. And as for Maria, her name was no longer whispered as the maid. She was remembered as the woman who risked her life to save another's child, a hero, a mother, and a soul of unshakable courage. So remember this: true worth isn't measured by wealth, power, or status. It is measured by the love we give, the lives we touch, and the sacrifices we make for others. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Grace Mitchell Stories, where tales of love, courage, and hope come alive every week. Because in the end, it is not what we keep that makes us rich, but what we give that makes us unforgettable.